All right, kindergartners, we're doing tall trees today, so you need a tree sort of color, background color. We're going to be doing the ground also, so make sure you have a good brown and green for the ground, but then we're going to be doing brown and green on the tree also, right? So see if maybe you can get a blackout also, and we'll use mix of colors, or maybe the light tan apricot color to use with the brown, and then also two different colors of green so that we can make our ground and our tree a little bit different colors. All right, kindergartners, you can see I've done my border already. So if you want to pause the video and go ahead and finish your border, you do that. My computer seems to like making the video better when it's a little bit shorter. So you can see I've got a lot of colors of browns and greens and even a little bit of blue I'm going to add into the top of my tall tree. So these I'll probably use for the top. And remember we talked, it was kind of like snowy. So when I imagine the ground, there might be some grass, but it's not going to be like bright grass, right? It's going to be kind of yellowy, sort of like it is right now. And then I've got several colors here. I have my gray and my black and the apricot and the brown that I can use to make my dirt and my tree. I'm going to start with the P though, right? We're making the letter first with just regular brown. And remember, we want to have the habit that we do the big line down first. So don't start with the part across the top. Start with your big line down, but give it a good bit of space here. So let me make sure you can see my border, because we're going to put our big line across and then the tree part goes above too. So this big line down might not be quite as big as some of our other big lines down because we're starting it a little lower. All right, and if yours is up higher, that's fine. We'll just have a thin top to our tall tree. All right. And I'm going to take it pretty far down since I'm starting it so close to the top, but not all the way down because we're going to add roots to it. But of course, we're going to finish making our T before we do the roots, because we do the border first, then the letter, then the picture, then the background. So that's pretty close to down at the bottom. There that one is. All right, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my little line across the top. So remember, we jump from the bottom up over to the smiley face starting dot. And that's where we start our little line across the top. So here's my edge of it, going on across. This is one of our easiest letters to make, isn't it? I think this one and L are probably the easiest capital letters. All right. Oh, this looks a little short to me compared to that one. So I'm going to go a little farther. All right. All right. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, even before I add in roots and the top of the tree, is I'm going to make it, you know, tree trunks, they're not usually just brown, right? We draw that in pictures. But when you actually go look at a tree trunk in the woods, they're not usually just brown. So I'm going to add a little black here and over here. And definitely some down here, right? When we look at tree trunks in the woods or when you pick up sticks on the playground, there are lots and lots of black marks in them and streaks. And then there's gray also, right? So I'm going to add some gray colors in here too. All right, now for the top, I always think of this as kind of a pine tree, right? And so when I think of pine trees, it's green, but I actually think of it being kind of a little blue also, the colors of the needles. So I'm going to, can you see this part's really flat? I don't want to take the paper off right now, so I'm just going to use the other end. We're going to make it kind of Christmas tree shaped, right? Now, I don't want to just draw a triangle there. Because if you think about Christmas tree branches, they're kind of doing this sort of thing, right? So it might take a little longer, but I'm just going to keep going back and forth like this and kind of slide up. Do you see how it's kind of going diagonally up? up that way, and now I'm going to do it on the other side. Let's see, that seems about even. All right, then I'm going to get the blue. I'm not going to push quite as hard with the blue as I did with the green. But when I think of pine trees, they always, to me, a lot of them seem to have kind of a little bit of a bluish color. So I'm going to put in a little blue here. Then I'm going to come back not quite as hard. And instead of kind of swooping back and forth, I'm going to do more smooth green back and forth here. You know, to me, this even seems like maybe it needs a little bit of gray. So once I get my green in here, you might not think so. Yours might look just the way you want it without adding any gray. I keep thinking of mine in the classroom that has a color I don't have here at home. All right, there's the top of my pine tree. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the roots down here. So I'm going to start with brown, and I'm going to give it kind of a root curving off down into here, right? The tip is kind of skinny, and then it gets wider as it goes in. And maybe another root down here. And I'll get one off over to here. You know, pine tree roots, they tend to go really wide, but not very far down. There's a nice wide one. I'll put another one kind of here. And maybe one more that's kind of coming out toward us. There we go. And then I'm going to add in some dirt color with this, first of all, because otherwise my roots and my dirt are going to look kind of the same, right? And I'll add a little black to my roots. There we go. I think I need a little more here. All right. Then just a little teensy bit of brown added into my dirt. All right, then I'm going to add in my grass. And it's not summertime. So my grass is not going to be all bright green, is it? It's going to be kind of a little faded, fall, winter looking sorts of grass. So this color says green yellow. So that's what I'm putting in here, because that seems to me more like the grass you'd have later in the year. It's all tired out. It's cold. All right. Now, you don't have to do this. I think I'm going to try to add in. Do you remember The Prince and the Lavender Lady? Oh my, you can't hardly see this at all, can you? I might add some actual green to this so that you can see it a little better. Do you remember The Prince and the Lavender Lady? That they cut down one long pole and then added some more branches and made a little tent. So I'm going to say here's that long pole that they cut down and carried for a ways. And then remember, they had some branches. I'm going to draw the stick parts of the branches in. And then I'll add like green onto them. There we go. Like pine tree branches here for them to sleep under. And I suppose I put some blue and some gray up in this part of my pine tree, didn't I? I'll add that in here too. So like I said, you don't have to do this part. If you want to just start working on your background now, that is perfectly fine. All right, there's some gray on their little tent that they made for the night. And a little blue here. All right, so there's where they were sleeping. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the background. So in my crayon box, I have several different colors of blue. And that one that I just used, it says Bluetiful on it. That's just their cute little name they made. Now I'm just going to use the regular blue. But there's cerulean, you have all kinds of colors of blue in there. But I'm going to use this really lightly here on my background. You can do it darker if you want to, but it's a little easier if it's lighter. But I know some students really like to do it dark. I had some students who like to make all the backgrounds look kind of like a patchwork quilt. There were lots of different colors. All right. Now I didn't get out red and orange. If I had, we could maybe have drawn their fire over here on this side, huh? But I didn't get those out. If you want to get out some red and orange and make a fire on the other side, go right ahead. Now, I don't really like how I see these streaky lines here. I'm going to try to find a flatter spot on my crayon so that it's not giving me quite so many lines like that. That's a tricky thing with crayons. Sometimes we want the lines and sometimes we don't. All right, there's that side of my background. And now I'm going to go ahead and work on this. It's a little tricky. You probably have some bumps to work around too, right? I have a little hard thing right here that my hand can't go any farther, and then the camera here in my way. So you might have some of that too. If you're able to rearrange things to be more comfortable, go right ahead. But if you can't, that's just life sometimes, isn't it? All right. I lost my flat spot on my crayon. There we go. Yes, well, I do like this better. I don't know if you can tell how this is smoother and that has more lines. That's what I was looking for. You know, sometimes we always want to do our best on these pictures, but sometimes we're learning things and figuring out things about how we like to make pictures on them. So they might always not be just right, and that's okay. All right, my friends, once you finish this background, did you know that we are more than halfway done with the alphabet? After Christmas, when we come back, we're going to start looking at how many letters you've done pictures for and that we've really studied. We've studied how to make them. We've practiced really making their sounds. And, you know, you already knew the letter name and the letter sound. But this gave us some really good practice to be really aware of what our mouth is doing with this sound in our throat, so that when we're learning new words, we're able to do it more quickly. All right, keep this in a safe place with your other letter pictures so that we can eventually make our book.